Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Crow Country. In the last part, we started off the game and got all the way to the staff lounge in the back of Fairy Tale Town, meeting our first enemies in the process. Now that we've seen them and we head back into Fairy Tale Town itself, the main hall not only has its main theme now, as the game has properly started, but there are now enemies all over the place. For right now, though, we turned this fairy around last time, and now I want to go, "Hear me, O great fairy of fairest forest, to awaken her. Hear me, O great fairy of fairest forest."
Welcome, child. Will you protect our precious natural world?
I will.
Follow me.
Thus, we can now go through the tree and access our next puzzle. So the first thing we want to do in this room is open up the curtain here in the corner, but do not run the mechanism behind it yet, otherwise you'll set off poison gas that can not only damage you, but poison you outright, which you need an antidote to cure. So the guy who fixed the water filter did it by running through the air ventilation system. If you run the filter pump behind the curtain with the incorrect pressure, too low or too high, it'll trigger the ventilator. Be careful, you can turn up the pressure using the valve handle. We'll deal with this puzzle in a moment though, because I want to go to the room beyond this one to get an item really quickly. But also notably, here's the crystal crow for this particular room. They like to hide them very often, just out of sight, too high or too low, or hidden behind something slightly like that. First off, let's talk about the room beyond here, though. There's not too much in here. There's usually a box, there's a trash can you can check for some stuff, there's a staff memo or two. But there is something very important if you look carefully at the wall's layouts. Let's see what the staff memo says to start. Who took the Ocean Kingdom restaurant, Trident? That thing's expensive! And without it, we can't do the Happy Birthday Sea Monster song. Someone said they saw it in the Witchwood? I'd go check, but that place gives me the creeps, honestly. So there's a Trident over in the Witchwood, wherever that is. But right here, there's a panel on the wall. It's a model of a crow with robot parts? The very last time I went to the theater with Ophelia, we saw an action movie about a cybernetic man from the future. I didn't really get it, but she loved it. She wouldn't stop talking about it. I got to work designing this cyborg crow since I thought she'd like it. I was going to propose it to Edward as a new themed area of the park. After I lost Ophelia, I shelved the project. I think the eye's made from a laser sight. And thus we get the Magnum laser. Spoiler alert, there's a Magnum in the game we'll get eventually. But also, here's some shotgun shells, so we're going to get a shotgun at some point as well. Watch out for metal bear traps laying on the ground. You can set them off from a safe distance with a single handgun bullet. I think I talked about those briefly last part. But you can set those off or you can walk enemies into them to have them take some damage that way. So the puzzle here is to use the valve handle over here to get the needle on the air pump into the white section, get over to it, and then press the lever before it gets into the red. If you set it up while the pointer is in either the red chunks, you set off the poison gas I brought up earlier. Those who seek the truth stare into the pure reflective water of our fairy pond, and now that the water is actually pure, we can see what we need to do. We need to shoot this right here, and that'll raise the fairy back up. It's the fairy from the tree. She's holding a key. There is our bronze key. We can now open any bronze keyholes we've seen. If you've been paying attention, we've already seen quite a couple of those. This tips and trick just tells you about the magazine that collates all the things you found so far in any given save room. So now that we have the bronze key, there's a couple of places we can go right here. In fact, if you wanted to, you could even go straight to progression and get the game even done quicker. Because speedruns of this are about 20 minutes long because of how you can go about orders of operations, and honestly, it's really fun. But we want to come in here first to see one of our long-term goals. Welcome to the construction site. If you can't find the crank handle, it's because I borrowed it. I used to hide that big egg-shaped ruby inside the haunted manor. Afterwards, I locked the crank handle in a safe in the southeast utility corridor. This room represents the first large key hunt of sorts from like a Resident Evil, where we need 3 different items we can find throughout the area to actually get the item that's in here. Because the flamethrower there isn't going off, so we need fuel for that. The mechanism here is incomplete, so we need a chain, which we know is on a goose over in the room here in Fairy Tale Town. Larger enemies have more health than smaller ones. Consider this one making decisions about which ones to fight and which weapons to use. And we need a crank handle to let this particular pipe go off. Now, to go back to the Magnum laser really quickly, when we grabbed that, an X with a 1 out of 15 showed up in the top left corner, much like the Crystal Crow counter we've been seeing throughout the game already. That indicates how many of the game's secrets you found. The Magnum laser is technically a secret item. We're getting them all in the LP, but there's one you can grab right now in the back left corner of this room in the green bucket that I just forget to get for a little bit. Tolman's Records, June 3rd, 1986. We hired a company to start excavating. It didn't go to plan. Problem 1, they spent too long setting up the site. Problem 2, there was already a paper trail forming. The whole point was to do this quickly and quietly. And then the deal breaker. They started asking questions about the roots. They wanted to know the full size and shape of the thing they were excavating. They wanted to know what it was made of. They wanted to know how long it had been there. No deal, obviously. They had to go. Roots. Huh. Weird. For right now, though, our duties here in Fairy Tale Town are concluded. There are a couple of other doors that we haven't investigated yet, but they are either locked from the other side or need a key we don't have yet. So we're going to head back into the main area, not only open a door in the main, like, shop area before the bathroom we entered last time, but enter one of the other themed areas now that we have the bronze key. Namely, we want to enter this room with the bronze key. This room, I'm mostly coming in right now to get it as a save point, because there is a fire in the back here. But also, there's a couple of things of lore. Douglas Pike, the builder. Natalie Crow, Autumn's child. Grenade in the train. The computer systems in both the railway room and the dungeon now need the security disks to access. Yes, I know it's inconvenient, but these are the new regulations. Indeed, back here there is a computer, but we need a floppy disk to actually do anything with it, so we'll keep that in mind for later. Instead, over here we got another Tolman's Records, March 23rd, 1988. The intruder is contained in the lab. Boss is calling him the guest. I told him that was in poor taste, but it stuck. Offered guest food and water. He took no notice of either. I can't begin to describe what's wrong with him. Boss doesn't want to call an ambulance. He doesn't want to call anyone. I suggested we shut down en route excavation, just until we work out what's happened. Boss says we can't shut down just yet, so the machines are back on. I have a bad feeling. I think we're about to make things worse. There's no reason yet to defeat enemies, but if you leave them, you may have a harder time traveling around later on. Like classic Resident Evil, you can just kind of avoid most of the enemies as you go to keep up your ammo reserves. There's only really like 5 or 6 enemies you really need to fight. Edward Crow, the Trailblazer, so there's who we're looking for, wherever he is. Tolman, the Mole. So that's who's been leaving the records around. I get a little bit lucky here, though. If you look in this glass jar, we have a new item we haven't seen before. And it's also an item we can use back at the construction site. This is gasoline. We need this to fuel one of the machines over there. So now we just need the chain and the crank handle. You can investigate these signs and press a button to have some trains go along, and this plays into a puzzle later on, so I'll save explaining what's going on there for then. For right now, though, we're going to go save, then head off towards the next area. And speaking of which, I've already talked about rank a couple times, namely the hint system and the amount of heals you use. The game counts how many saves you do on a given playthrough. I don't think it factors into rank cell, except for maybe S+, but future me can probably correct me on that. Oh, hi there, you're spindly. I don't like you. I would actually recommend taking this guy out just because he's got some pretty good range. I think hitting his joints does a little bit extra damage, but otherwise the head and the torso are still pretty safe places to aim. Come on, open up, open up, open up, open up, open up, oh god. With that, welcome to Haunted Hilltop, our horror-themed area of this particular theme park. This is actually one of the more annoying rooms to find crystal crows in because they got ample places to actually do it. So in here we got the dungeon, the witchwood, the haunted manor, and the crypt. And also in this wood notice board we got our map for the Haunted Hilltop, which adds the Haunted Hilltop itself and its rooms to the main parts of the map. He's smiling at me. Gross. I couldn't move him. You know, I think he's fine where he is. But seemingly he is missing a partner over on the side, so we should look for something like him. Oh, hi, another person. Before we talk to them, let's see what the staff memo has to say. Please be careful around the Haunted Manor bookcases. Read the book titles carefully. In fact, it'd be easier if you just didn't touch them at all, alright? What are you doing? Trying to get through this door. Oh, right. Is it locked? Obviously! Is there another way around? It's possible. Right, I'll go have a look. I appreciate how focused she is on getting through that door. So we can head straight to where we need to go to let her into that door. But I'm going to take a look at some of the other rooms really quickly to grab some items, staff memos, and any future hints we can get for other things effectively. Starting off with this room, the prison. I guess the dungeon, technically. The Deadly Mermaid, imprisoned for crimes against nature, 1837. Doors don't open in here. But notably, like the note back in the train room said, we also have another computer in here we need to use a disk on, so keep that in mind for later. The Big Bad Wolf, imprisoned for crimes against nature, 1810. What's this staff memo say? We had a complaint from a parent about the depiction of alcohol in the mermaid cage. Of all the things to complain about! I told her it's not an alcohol bottle, it's a bottle of highly corrosive acid. That actually seemed to placate her. That sounds like customers. The Violent Cyclops in prison for crimes against nature, 700 BCE. And over here in this final one, the Deceptive Serpent in prison for crimes against nature, 1800 BCE. When talking to NPCs, make sure you've seen all their dialogue before moving on. If you see a speech bubble above an NPC set, try talking to them again, which I've already brought up. Next up, let's see what this newspaper in the middle has to say. The Atlanta Globe, January 1987. South American gold mine linked to local landowner. Reports have emerged detailing the activities of a recently revived Brazilian gold mine. Apparently, the site, near the north coast of the state of Para, is currently operating as one of the most profitable gold mines in the Americas, selling to at least 2 major international companies. But why, you ask, are we reporting on this in the Atlanta Globe? Well, it's recently surfaced that the gold mine in question is actually owned by local landowner and businessman Edward Crow. Most readers probably know him as the eponymous owner of the Crow Country theme park here in Atlanta, and indeed, it seems there has been some effort to cover up Mr. Crow's connection to this profitable gold mine. While eyebrows are certainly being raised at this revelation, at least we've finally discovered the source of Crow's vast wealth. Well, we've definitely heard them talking about a mine and some of the other notes we found around, but what's the deal with that? Now we can enter the Iron Maiden, and in here is a button. Press it, and the Iron Maiden closes, and despite that, it is thankfully not a game over. It's just a door to get into a hallway behind the Iron Maiden. Now, there's not much reason to do this for right now, because all that's in here is a staff memo and a secret. There's a locked door we can't get past, but you might as well do this now while you're here. The power switch for the 4 periphery elevators is in Tolman's office. Yes, that's the other side of the park. Yes, that means you're in the wrong place. Periphery elevators. And in here we got Magnum ammo. Watch out for glass gas traps laying on the ground. You can smash them from a distance with a single handgun bullet. I hate the gas traps so much, but I'll start more talking about them when they eventually show up. Now, notably, basically everything tied to the Magnum is considered a secret in the game, so if you ever see ammo for that, hold on to it and don't waste it on just standard enemies because it is rare and it is powerful. For right now, though, our goal here in Haunted Hilltop is in the distance as we want to hit up either of the doors on the far end. Just be careful of the enemies down there, which you can bait them into the bear trap that's up here or into that gas canister, or you could even use the electrified generator that's behind the one right there, which I honestly basically never use the generators in specific, if only because for some reason I just constantly forget they're there. Just because of how I usually angle the camera in some form or another, it's just never in my vision and I always forget to use them, but they're still pretty effective. Also, I love the Haunted Hilltop theme. This game's soundtrack in general is really easy listening while being pretty eerie. I believe it was composed by Akaroid, who, from what I remember looking at Moby Games, their only other role was as a couple of characters, namely Robert Fang, Bialystok, and Busy Boy G in Great God Grove the same year this came out, so last year. I'll talk more about the individual staff and all that later on, but the big thing to know is that this game is developed by SFB Games, which stands for Super Flash Brothers, their former Newgrounds animators. Metal Gear Mayhem was them back in 2002. But they also developed Snipper Clips, which, between that and Tangle Tower, God, that's some range between those and this. He's hooting and hollering. Is this supposed to be an owl? He's shaped more like a bell. Seems like he hoots 5 times, then stops. Shaped like a bell, we got a bell over here. We can pull this 5 times to open this door. With that said, I'm not going to go in there yet, as I want to get things done in the opposite direction, plus there's a staff memo over here in the corner I want to read. Watch out for the bear trap once again, by the way. Very easy to just not look where you're walking and step onto those. If you're doing maintenance in the Haunted Manor or trying to access Ocean Kingdom, you'll need the crank handle. It's locked in the safe in the southeast utility corridor. The code for the safe is something to do with the crypt, I think. Well, the crypt is right here, so let's go take a look at what we can find in here. Oh, that's eerie looking. Oh, that's a shotgun. Is it going to shoot? I better not touch it. What about the gate? I swear it was open when I first came in the room. It won't budge. Maybe if I disable the trap somehow. If any of the kids have trouble disabling the trap, you can offer this advice. When reading the gravestones, focus on the names. The birth and death dates aren't any use to you, for now. Look at the floor in the center of the room. So, this puzzle involves the names on the graves themselves and the compass rose in the center of the floor. For instance, Solomon Weselby, 1855 to 1909. Their initials are SW, so we need to make the head face southwest on the compass. Estelle, 1898 to 1938, got to face east. Solina, 1805 to 1872. Gotta go south. And over here we got Norbert Easley, 1833 to 1891. Gotta face northeast. Doing that, we'll finish the puzzle, and the shotgun will no longer aim at you. Here lies Ophelia, tragically drowned. Daughter. Sister. Human. It's holding a shotgun. I don't think it's gonna shoot me. Maybe I could use it. It's stuck. It's stuck. Oh boy. It broke. I guess it was just a plastic decoration. Well, I guess we're done here then. Surprise! First mini-boss of the game will just slowly walk at you. 2 grenades will usually take out most of its health pretty quickly. But notably, that fight is technically optional. It opened when I disabled the trap, but when the brick wall was broken, it got pushed close again. Won't budge, must be something I can do. Well, we can go back here, hit the handle, pull it out, and just completely remove the gate. Now, I say that fight's optional. That's considered a mini-boss. There are 4 of them in the game. If you either know the solution ahead of time or are fast on your feet, you can ignore most of them. For instance, that guy, you can just walk around and get to that handle and open the gate. In fact, the gate will likely actually fall on top of the boss fight, instantly killing it. Also notably in that room, you can actually completely ignore the puzzle. I left the shotgun in the submarine. Shark, 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 dolphin. At least I think that's the quickest way. I was never good at math. It's a handwritten letter. Hey Ed, what's been going on? Finally set up the address you can use to send me the ore. If you label the contents as samples of geological interest, we can pass it off as an academic research thing. I'll collect the shipments once a week and take them back up into the mine. Hold on to your hat, we're about to become the luckiest gold miner since 1848. Marv. Now what I mean by you can ignore the puzzle in that previous room. The clock that is above the shotgun that's aiming at you. If you shoot that, I believe, 3 times with your handgun, it'll just completely break, and you can go straight into that mini-boss fight. That's one of the reasons why the speedrun for this is only about 20 minutes, as it's a lot of movement optimization, but also just knowing the solutions to puzzles and ways around some of them faster. Honestly, in that regard, I should mention, Mara controls like a goddamn dream, analog stick or D-pad alike. She's got really good rotation speed. She's got really good movement speed to begin with, on top of the relatively small size of the areas. This game is a wonder to control. Watch out for chandelier traps hanging from the ceiling. Set them off from a safe distance with a single handgun bullet. They'll damage enemies, too. In fact, most traps you can do like that will. Field trips. Gather the kids in a group outside of the haunted manor. Choose an older kid to get them to ring the doorbell. Nothing will happen. Laughter ensues. Then choose a younger kid and have them try. Quietly tell them the secret so they can get the door open. Impressed gasps ensue. The secret's to ring the bell a specific amount of times, as we have already done. Hello, little Crystal Crow. Almost halfway through with those. That's an elevator. It's probably one of the periphery ones that one note over by the dungeon was talking about. It's a glossy magazine. Oh, it's an adult magazine. Ugh, no thanks. Also, this box is going to showcase something I find kind of annoying about this game. Inventory limits. A reminder that the piano in the Haunted Manor is not to be used for casual playing. It's wired up to the walls, and the whole system is pretty fragile. If you're not Haunted Manor staff, leave it alone. Something with the piano in the Haunted Manor, okay. But yeah, notably, this game has hard inventory limits on any given item you can hold. Like, you can only hold, I believe, 10 normal med kits and I think 5 large med kits. Here's the Eastern Utility Corridor maps. Now we have mostly the east side of Crow Country marked down on our map, including our destination of Crow's office. Any circle on the map, by the way, is a puzzle. Tom B. Stone. The year Solina died. Looks very well read. Is it some kind of clue? Solina. Didn't I just see that name somewhere just a minute ago? Well, we're in the Southeast Utility Corridor, and there's a safe here. We know that there's going to be a crank in here from other stuff, so if we put in Solina's death date of 1872, we get the crank handle. We can now use this not only in the construction site back in Fairy Tale Town, but apparently over in the Haunted Manor, as we know from another note. This operates the latch, so we can now actually let that lady in here. Finally. Hey, how'd you get inside? I went through the crypt. There's this tombstone puzzle and a shotgun and this ticking clock. Okay, I didn't ask for your life story. Oh, sorry. I'm just kidding. You did good, alright? Now there's work to be done. What are you doing? Yeah, I think this is the best spot. The best spot for what? I assume he uses that elevator, so he'll see it for sure. Are you talking about Edward Crow? Yeah. Hey, would you help me out with something? Sure. What do you need to do? I need to clear off these tables and then lay out some documents. It won't take a minute. That'll do it. Thanks for the help. That takes care of that. Hopefully he'll see it. While I'm here, I'm going to take a look in the cell. Did you go in? I didn't, no. I see. Probably for the best. We'll catch you later. Stay out of trouble, alright? Well, let's see what she placed down there for the attention of Edward Crow. It's a newspaper. The Atlanta Globe, July 1988. Incident at local theme park. Parents Luke and Patricia Marshall decided to take their daughter Elaine to a local theme park for her 15th birthday. Crow Country, named for its owner, one Edward Crow, is a small amusement park found only a few miles southeast of Atlanta. It's fair to say that it's been fairly popular with locals, but never really drew in the big crowds that some of its larger competitors. The Marshall family were walking through the haunted Hilltop section of the park when Elaine became separated from her parents. Around half an hour later, Elaine reappeared. She was visibly very upset, and a patch of blood marked the front of her t-shirt. It seems Elaine had wandered into a restricted section of the park and encountered something or someone very dangerous. Yesterday, Atlanta Central Radio got a direct call from Elaine herself speaking from a ward at Westview Hospital. There was a man in a cage. Eerie. Guessing that's Elaine. Patient Elaine Marshall. Date of birth July 5th, 1973. Injuries: wound across stomach and chest, not healing due to bacterial infection. Attempts to identify the nature of the bacteria are still ongoing. Suspected cause of injury: attacked by a wild animal. Unsubstantiated claim by patient she was attacked by a person. Treatment: ongoing treatment of bacterial infection. Currently no improvement shown. Notes: patient also complains of ongoing headaches and queasiness. Further treatment pending legal agreement between Marshall family and third-party financier. Dr. Margaret Fielding, Atlanta Westview Hospital. It's a business card. Julie Barron, locally feared lawsuit attorney, 404-555-0129. Someone's trying to get someone served. And if you come in here, this is the cell Julie wandered into. I actually didn't find this room at all in my first playthrough. Tolman's records, March 24th, 1988. Boss and I have the storeroom converted into a holding cell. Pike isn't happy about it. He says we can't legally hold people here even if they've committed a crime within the park. I tell him it's not for criminals. Boss brings the guest up here, locks it in the cell. He wants to run some tests. He says it'll be quicker if he doesn't have to travel down to the lab each time. I think it's a very bad idea to bring the guest up to the surface, especially while the park is still open. Almost immediately, I'm proven right. A girl named Elaine Marshall finds her way into the holding cell and encounters the guest. She is injured and taken to the hospital. Boss is forced to close the park. I fear this is not the end, but the beginning. Well, here we are. The incident that closed down Crow Country. It happened right here. Did you notice it's been deep cleaned? Of course, that in itself is a form of evidence. You mean the fact they had this room cleaned is proof that something happened? Something they want to cover up? Right, no smoke without fire, as they say. No bleach without blood. Oh, that's good. I'm going to start saying that. It's okay. You don't need to stay. I'm sure you have places to be. Right. You're looking for Edward Crow, aren't you? Do you know where he is? I want to get into his office. It's in the northeast corner of the park, I think. Northeast? Sounds like you'll need to pass through the Haunted Manor. Once you're inside, look for a way to pass through the back wall. Right. Thanks, Julie. I like Julie. It's a cell door. It's locked. It can be unlocked with a switch under the floor panel. It's not especially well hidden. There's a button. Cell door unlocked, simple as that. And I want to come in here not only because there's a large medkit, but also the Crystal Crow for this room is in here. By and large, if you're in a room in Crow Country, there's a Crystal Crow hidden in it. Some rooms have two, as we saw in the main hall, and usually each hallway has at least two. There are times they blend in better than others, though, as you may have noticed so far. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 3, we're going to continue through Haunted Hilltop and head towards the northeast side of the park. See you guys then!